Let's continue on with Chapter 7 in The Wizard of Oz, The Journey to the Great Oz. The travelers had to spend the night under a tree because there were no houses anywhere around. Dorothy built a fire. It was warm and cozy. She and Toto ate the last of their bread. When Dorothy wondered what they would eat for breakfast the next morning, the lion said he could go into the forest and get a deer for them, which they could roast over the fire. But the Tin Woodman said he would cry great tears of pity for the deer, and then his mouth would rust shut again. In the end, the Cowardly Lion went into the forest and found his own supper, and the Scarecrow found a tree full of nuts and picked many of them for Dorothy. He said it was good for him to do that because it kept him away from the fire where a spark could land on him and catch him on fire. The next day was very eventful for the travelers. After their first hour of walking, they came to a wide and deep ditch. Or we could say a gulch, or we could say a ravine. There was no way to get to the other side to continue on the road. It was really deep, and the sides were so steep. It looked like their journey was to come to an end. "What shall we do?" asked Dorothy despairingly. "I don't know," replied the Tin Woodman. The Scarecrow said, "We cannot fly, and we can't climb down the ditch and back up again, and we can't jump across it. So we have no way to carry on." "I think I could jump it," stated the lion suddenly. The Scarecrow said, "Then we are saved. We can all sit on your back while you jump over, starting with me, because if I fall into the gulch, I shall not be hurt." "I am afraid of falling," said the lion, "but I guess I'd better try. Climb on, Scarecrow." With that, the lion gave a great spring and shot through the air and landed on the other side. Then he sprang back and got the woodman. Then he sprang back again and got Dorothy and Toto across the gulch. The lion said he needed to take a rest after all that jumping. He said he was tired out, so the gang rested by the side of the road for a while. When they got up to continue their journey, the friends were dismayed to find the forest on this side of the gulch was very dark and gloomy. They walked in silence, each one wondering how much longer they would be in this forest. The lion said to Dorothy that he was worried they might meet some Kalidahs. "What are Kalidahs?" asked Dorothy. "They are monstrous beasts with the body of a bear and the head of a tiger." "I'm very afraid of them," replied the Cowardly Lion. "I'm sure I would be afraid of them too," agreed Dorothy. Just then, the group came to another ravine in the road, but this one was wider and deeper than the last one, and the lion knew he could not jump across it. They all sat down to think. After a few minutes, the Scarecrow said, "Here is a great tree beside the ditch. If the Tin Woodman can chop it down with his axe, it could lie across the ditch, and we could all cross over on the fallen tree." "That's a first-rate idea," said the lion. "Everyone is going to think you have brains in that head of yours, and not just straw." The Tin Woodman chopped, and the lion pushed the tree so that it landed on the other side of the ravine. Then they all began to cross on their new bridge. As they were just beginning to cross, they suddenly heard a great growl. When they looked, to their horror, they saw two great beasts running towards them. They had heads like tigers and bodies like bears. "They are Kalidahs!" exclaimed the Cowardly Lion, trembling with fear. "Let's cross over quickly!" cried the Scarecrow. So Dorothy went first, holding Toto, followed by the Tin Woodman, then the Scarecrow. The lion, despite being very afraid, turned around and roared very loudly at the approaching Kalidahs. But there were two Kalidahs, and the Kalidahs were bigger than the lion. So the lion ran quickly to cross the ravine. Then the Kalidahs ran onto the tree bridge too. The lion said, "We are lost. The Kalidahs will tear us apart, but I will fight for you. Stand behind me, everybody. I will fight for you." The Scarecrow had been thinking. He said, "Quickly, Woodman, chop the tree, now that we are across." The Woodman chopped the tree bridge, and the Kalidahs fell into the ravine. They were dashed to pieces. This adventure made the travelers more determined than ever to get out of that scary forest. The Cowardly Lion said, "I was so frightened. My heart is beating so fast." The Tin Woodman replied, "Be happy you have a heart to beat so fast like that." They began to walk very quickly, so quickly that Dorothy became tired. The lion said she could ride on his back to give her some rest. Soon, to their relief, the forest trees became fewer and the land appeared more open. In the afternoon, the group came to a wide river. Across the river, they could see the yellow brick road continuing through a beautiful field, and they could also see trees which held delicious-looking fruit. "How can we get across this river?" asked Dorothy. "Easy," replied the Scarecrow. "The Tin Woodman must use his axe to chop down some trees and build a raft. Then we can float across the river." But it takes time to build a raft. The Tin Woodman worked hard, but by evening he was not quite finished yet. The Scarecrow found some fruit for Dorothy to eat on this side of the river. They would go across the river the next morning. The group found a cozy place under the trees to sleep for the night, and Dorothy dreamed of the Emerald City and the good wizard Oz who would help her go back to her home. The end of chapter 7. That chapter is a little bit longer. There's quite a bit of action going on. First of all, I want to mention that I made a bit of a mistake here saying, "How can we get across this river?" asked Dorothy for number 24. I meant to take that off. It's repeated in 25, but I guess that's okay. It's extra practice. This group of exercises is concentrating on using future tense in English, so simply by using going to or will. The first exercise is using going to, and for each of the examples or each of the sentences, the student writes in going to, conjugating it according to the subject. Therefore, because we have to use to be for that. So therefore, I am going to, you are going to, he, she, it is going to, we are going to, or they are going to. And there's an example. The lion said he is going to hunt for a deer in the forest. So all of these 9, the students simply must write in the correct form of the verb be and going to. After that, the sentence is done. Second exercise is a spoken one. Again, using going to, and the image is there. And the students can use I, depending on what the teacher decides. You can use I, you, they, he or she, we, to finish the sentence. So when it's the student's turn, he or she would say, "I am going to wash the dishes. I am going to feed the fish." If they are instructed to say, according to the picture, you would say, "They are going to play chess" for the third one. And I'm not sure, he or she is going to ride horseback, etc. Down here, I thought it was funny, just the little boy running after the other one. Exercise 3 for future tense when you are speaking. of something that will happen or something you plan to do, you can also use the word will in front of the main verb. The first exercise could not be more easy. All the student needs to do is write in the word will, but I want them to read the sentence as well. That way you get the sense of the word. The more times you read it, the more times it becomes evident. I will help my dad lift that piano. I will be a good friend. He will show you how to use that strange machine. And on it goes. At the bottom, I put, do you notice that you don't even have to conjugate the main verb after you say will? So you don't have to think about S's or anything, like the alarm. Normally, if you just said the alarm went off or the alarm rings at 6 o'clock. But if you're talking in future, you say the alarm will ring and you don't have to conjugate ring at all. Next, for exercise 4, all of the verbs are at the bottom, and according to the chapter, the student is to choose which verb, but must also put in the word will to put it into the future tense. So the Tin Woodman, you have to choose the correct verb, but not only that, you put will in front of it. So we're talking about making a raft here. The Tin Woodman will, and then from the bottom, verbs. Build is your best bet. So the Tin Woodman will build a raft. And for number 2, Dorothy will, and then you're going to choose sleep. Sleep under a tree all night. All of them will be done that way. Finally, class reading. Actually, before finally, each student will be assigned one of the numbers. So if you have 27 students in your class, you can go all the way up to 27. Maybe you have fewer, so each individual could be given 2 readings or just 1. It doesn't really matter. And it can be done in order. I think that would make a nice continuity. I put a little handy chart down here so you can write names. The students themselves, if they have this copy, can write their name beside the number of their reading selection. So you can have students go and so for example, if John or Susie has number 6, they can go up, and number 6 up here is, I think I could jump it, stated the lion suddenly, and they would read the whole thing. So this is really important for practicing for vocabulary, reading fluency, pronunciation, a little bit of expression, just ways to make it good. Number 6, the last one, it's a small bit of writing. Look at the picture. It's a man who's very cold and he needs to build a fire. He needs to build it quickly or his fingers will become too cold. It is cold out. I'll just read. Look at the picture. It is very cold outside. The man is in the Yukon. He will build a fire. Why will he build a fire? Finish the sentence below to explain. So they can finish the sentence in an accurate but maybe creative way as well. I hope this helps.